everyone. This is W, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast. I want you to think about the last time a song just smacked you over the head. I've got a short story for you all. Take a listen. I left my girlfriend's house early one morning, turned on one of my favorite stations called KEXP in Seattle. And right away, one of my most admired DJs, John Richards, was playing a tune that stopped me in my tracks. In fact, I was in my car and I pulled over. And this walloped me in such a moving way. I later found out it was a tune by Hannah Lou, a visual artist, director, and a musician from the Bay Area, who had put together, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful songs of 2026, and from an album that I know many of you are going to embrace. What is that song? What is that album? We will get to all of that later in this conversation. But for now, let us welcome Hannah to Surprise Cast. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for the kind words. And I'm sorry I almost caused maybe a car accident.
That would have been a first in these conversations. You know, and like I just mentioned, we will certainly get into the nuts and bolts and the weeds of this self-titled album. But I had learned that you grew up in San Francisco, so I have a quote for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is from the famous writer Rudyard Kipling. And he says this: San Francisco has only one drawback. 'Tis hard to leave. Is hard to leave. Right now, San Francisco is thriving. It is blossoming. It is booming with industry, music, art, culture. So speak to us about San Francisco.
Well, I spent most of my life in San Francisco. And when I go there now, I feel like I'm going to a city that's in the place where the city I grew up in was. It's a different city. It's changed a lot. And I haven't lived there for about 7 years now. And now that I have some distance, I can go in and like do things I love to do. And, I'll take the ferry in and just, it's such a beautiful, ornate city. But it feels like, the times that are special to me about it are past, like in terms of my connection. Like when I was first playing in bands, I was in San Francisco, and just even as as a preteen and a teen, I was there in the 90s. And so my relationship to the city is kind of those times, and I don't relate much to the culture that's there now. Although I did play at Bottom of the Hill last night, and I was just I've been playing at Bottom of the Hill for like 20 years, and we're closing this year. And I have to say, just there's not many medium-sized venues in the city anymore. Like a lot of them are closing, and it's been such a way for so many artists that they've grown from playing tiny venues to big venues. And you also get paid way better at a place like Bottom of the Hill than you would at like a larger venue. And it's just like really a natural way for bands to grow for their audience and everything. And those things are really disappearing right now. So I'm really wondering, it's already been a city that's priced artists out. There's not as many artists that live in San Francisco anymore like there was when I was first involved with music. But besides artists getting kind of priced out, there's also not really an infrastructure for like bands to grow. Like it's kind of like play at a tiny bar or play at an enormous venue. And a lot of the enormous venues don't even have local openers that play. There's often like touring bands with touring openers. So yeah, it's kind of a strange time for art in San Francisco. I think it's a good time for tech, but it has been for a while. But yeah, I still love San Francisco. I was pretty bitter the last 10 years I lived there. I was like, what is happening? Like, just a complete takeover. But I still love the city. And I do feel way more at home here in Richmond than I did in the last 10 years I lived in my I guess, hometown. So I don't know what that says.
So what's the difference between Richmond and San Francisco for people that haven't visited?
Well, I'm just like, really in the larger East Bay because where I live, like the other side of my fence is El Cerrito, and 4 blocks later, you're in Albany. Like, I don't have a ton of city pride, but I do feel like there's just a lot more diversity out here of both race and class. And that's how it was when I was growing up in San Francisco. I knew like all kinds of people. Like you'd go to parties in the projects and also at like a mansion all on the same weekend when you were a kid growing up in San Francisco. There was just all kinds of people that I knew and was exposed to all kinds of cultures. And that's kind of more what it's like out here where I live. There's a real diversity, true diversity of class. There's not as many people like, you kind of have this insatiable wealth in San Francisco. People are often shocked by the unhoused community in San Francisco, but really that's a product of the insatiable wealth in San Francisco. And yeah, I think there's just not that like class war feeling as much out here. And it's just a relief. I mean, I'm not saying there's not insatiably rich people in the East Bay. And I've grown to understand the micro kind of climates, the sort of just the micro regional kind of attributes of each town. Like Berkeley has a real like, not in my backyard. And it's like, then you got like people out here are just like normal people to me. Like, because San Francisco before the first tech boom was just like a kind of seedy, like regular city. And when I was young and first going to shows, like the older people, we go to like punk shows, we go to like Mission Records and stuff and Star Cleaner and raves, all the older people in the scene were junkies and they were not nice. It was just like older, unfriendly, like druggies, basically. And nowadays, like now I'm one of the older people in the scene and I'm like, you guys have it good. Like older people now are so wholesome. Like I don't know. I feel like a lot of the newer DIY and punk venues that have opened, there's just like it's just really different. I mean, it's different times, but San Francisco before all that was just a really different city. It was kind of a rough place to grow up in a way. It was kind of like, yeah, some things were just like unavoidable. Like, of course you were going to try drugs. Of course you were going to stay out all night. Like the rave scene in San Francisco in the 90s was like, I mean, it's funny because nowadays, like my niece, she's 19 and she goes to raves. And my brother was like, yeah, she went to a rave. But in my mind, I'm like, are raves today like actual raves? Like, were they breaking into a building? Was it illegal? Was there a possibility of getting arrested? Like, I don't know. Like, what does rave mean now? It's funny. But there's a lot of like strange optimism too. Like, it was dark times, but there was like some optimism being a young person where you were like, I'm not going to follow any rules. I'm going to sneak on the bus and stay out all night and write on things and hang out in the abandoned, like just like just being a kid in the city was kind of crazy. But yeah, now like I have a memory from every corner of San Francisco, like really. But I don't have like the ghosts don't bother me as much anymore. Like I'm at a place where I can actually visit and just be like, this is beautiful. I love this neighborhood. It's still intact. And yeah, this street is still very messed up and gentrification has not touched this block. It's still somewhere where you can like I don't know. Yeah, the whole Bay Area is so beautiful though, honestly, like,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, like, because BART doesn't run all night, so there's kids that grew up in San Francisco didn't really hang out we didn't really hang out in the East Bay as much because BART didn't run all night. I do remember waiting at a BART station for it to open after, like, partying all night and getting home. But, like, yeah, there's kind of, like, strange, like, not exactly rivalry, but East Bay kids just didn't come to San like, everyone has feelings about it. Also, everyone has feelings about what the Bay Area is, because I have a good friend from San Jose, and we got into a debate whether San Jose was part of the Bay Area. And if you interview anyone from the Bay Area and you give them a list of every city from, what's considered the Bay Area on a map, everyone has feelings about it.
Right. Right. Well, thank you for providing that perspective. And I've heard some of those things mentioned from other artists, musicians as well, in terms of how San Francisco has changed since the 90s, for better, for worse, or however you want to perceive that. I do want to ask you this question after this quote from Yo-Yo Ma. He says, music is a living thing. It grows and evolves with every artist who touches it. When did music begin to touch your soul? When did you realize, wow, this got some really heavy gravity?
When I was a kid, I always loved music. And, I think I used to like write little songs with like my friend when I was little. And she's actually still a composer to this day, which is really cool. But I never learned an instrument. My brother gave me a Moog when I was 18 that he thought was broken. He's 13 years older than me and like kind of like my music idol when I was a kid. But he gave me this Moog because he thought the power supply was broken. I was 17. I was living in New York. I had left San Francisco by then and lived in New York. I was out on my own. And I brought the Moog to like a music store and they were like, oh, we can put a new power supply. So I just like learned synthesis on the Moog and it became like like my first instrument. And there's no little screen, it's not like modern synthesizers. It's like all the parameters of what you're working on are right in front of you. And I always wanted to do music, but I lived in New York and I was like working all the time and I was going to school. And at that time, like it was the late 90s, people were just so like out there trying to make it or something in New York. And there was really like not a lot of people playing that I knew playing in bands. But at that time, I thought playing in a band or doing things with other people would be really fun, but I just had no idea how to do it. And then I met these kids from Little Rock, Arkansas, and they were all playing in bands and have labels and stuff. And they invited me to go on a tour with them just as a roadie. And I did. And then me and the other roadie were like, we should start our own band. And we toured all over, the East Coast and stuff and the Southeast. And it just like really appealed to me. And then actually I lived in New York during 9/11, and after like maybe the year after that, I was like, I think I'm ready to leave this city actually that feels like the center of the world, but also has been kind of traumatic this year. And a bunch of people I knew lived in Philly, including my friend Dustin, who was the other roadie that we talked about starting a band. And I moved to Philly and we started a band, and that was my first band. And I played Moog. And then I didn't really feel like I could play guitar or bass. Like I had no idea how to, just didn't know how to do that. Then eventually I moved back to San Francisco in like 2003. And I linked up with an old friend of mine, Frankie Rose, who is a musician still to this day. And she and I were like, oh, we're both kind of like depressed and we have no friends. Should we like start, like, maybe we should try to learn instruments or something? And like, maybe that could get us, we just had this idea that we should learn instruments and like start a band. And so we just started playing together with our friends Woo, and then our friend Raven joined. We started this like kind of punk band where like we all learned our instruments together. And so it was cool because we were just really learning by playing together. But I just always played the bass from the beginning. I am in that band. I just had a really crappy that
Mm.
was total piece of shit. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word on here. Sorry. But yeah, we just started playing, and then that band dissipated and led to Grass Widow, and I just kept playing bass. And I was just a bass player. I played a little bit of Moog on like a Grass Widow recording, and I'm looking at that Moog right now, still in my life. But then I think the bass, I usually write because of the way I learned how to play instruments. I still don't know what notes I'm playing on bass. Like I'm like a self-taught musician. I don't understand like,
Really?
yeah,
So no lessons?
no.
Wow.
I think a lot of women in music have the experience where they don't want some dude mansplaining stuff to them, and it can inhibit creativity. I mean, for me, I never wanted to be I'm just a stubborn person. I like figuring things out myself. But I mean, if you learn a cover, you can see the fingering and understand like how someone was writing a song and kind of get into that their mindset. And that's kind of a cool way to understand that. But I think a lot of my writing is just based on my own the shapes I make on the bass.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because this is perfect because yesterday I just spoke with a great bassist from the band Fugazi. His name is Joe Lally. And
Yeah.
obviously he was talking about his experience with the bass and kind of the way that the bass spoke to him. So let me ask you this, almost the same question. So when you're working with the bass instrument, are you locking in more with the drummer per se or melody? Like, what's your approach for that?
I usually, when I write music, I think of a bass line with a vocal. That's just how my brain writes. And like, I'm sure, like, if I played guitar and I was thinking in chords, I would be thinking about the voicing of a chord as part of what I'm writing. But for me, it's like it's usually the harmony or like the relationship between a bass line and vocals that starts a song.
Yeah.
And then I usually like I record the drums on the computer. So I usually like if I have an idea, I usually hum it into my phone and then I run to my studio. I lay down drums really quick, just like to get a sketch. And then I play the bass part. And sometimes I play a bass synth part. Sometimes I play a bass guitar part, depends. And then I'll sing a vocal. And then usually that's how my songs are built.
Okay. So great transition into the creative process. And if you want to talk about how it relates to this new album, previous work, all fine by me. I want to read you another quote by Rick Rubin, the,
Okay.
the great producer, mostly known for his work with Beastie Boys. I'm going to give you two little quotes here. He says, creativity is not a rare ability. It's not difficult to access. Creativity is a fundamental aspect of being human. The point is not to make something great. The point is to make something and then make it great. So talk to us about creativity as you were kind of just getting into the mood here with regards to that.
Well, I think like especially in writing this album during, it's essentially a wartime album and I have felt like I'm writing music during, wartime since like my last cold beat record. I mean, things have been pretty fucked up in the world. And I guess I relate most to like the Dada movement when it comes to creating things during a time like this because like they were like kind of having a response to World War One and rejecting the aesthetics of war and the aesthetics and the logic of capitalism. And I feel like creating something new and something that's not didactic or literal during a time like this kind of anything that rejects the norm or the status quo is what I feel like is important right now. And that's kind of what drives my work is like I'm feeling a lot because I think we all are because of just the times we're living in and the atrocities going on all around us. But I think that the human experience and the synthesis of that is really important and having an outlet that I have to kind of just take the experience or what I'm feeling about world events and just my environment and then having a way to write about it is like it's just like I have to. And honestly, sometimes I wish I didn't have that compulsion. Like I almost feel like writing songs is like a malady sometimes because like I will get an idea and if I don't see it through, I feel frustrated. And some people don't have that. Like they have no need or desire to make anything. They're happy with how things exist and they're just like, great. Like I'm content. The world is great. And, or they're like, the world is not great, but I'll just watch sports and I'll feel better or something. Everyone has their like, escapism or something. But for me, like And I think a lot of people that write music feel like this. It's almost like you're channeling something. Like, I don't even know where the ideas come from. It's just like, it's like from somewhere else and comes into your head, and then you have to see it through. And I'm very lucky that I've gotten like this record I recorded by myself at home and I did my best. But then, to that Rick Rubin quote, I brought the material to the studio with Miriam Kudus, who I worked with, and she just helped me make it great. Like, she really did that.
In what way?
Well, I don't even know. She's such a sorceress. She just I brought all my stems in, and it's almost like she lifted a blanket off of them sonically. And then, all musicians kind of I'm a bass player, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I often hear things in songs that I feel like are the lead that other people would think another instrument is the main character. So we would kind of zero in on things that didn't occur to me. And also just quality control, being like, I think you could sing that again, because I thrive when someone's this, the song you were talking about earlier, Sunday, when I
Yes.
wrote that song, I felt very emotional and I felt like it was the best thing I've ever written. And I was like, oh, I'm doing justice and I'm actually doing it. And then I felt this big pressure to make it sound right. And I really needed it I needed the version of it on the record to be I didn't want to skimp on the production. I didn't want to compromise. And she really just helped me kind of bring it forth in the quality that it needed to be because in my head, it sounds like it does in my head. Usually if I write a song because I've done a lot of production on my own without external help on a few cold beat records, someone would help me mix it or something, but it wasn't I don't know. I was just probably had too much reverb or something. It was just kind of hidden. Yeah, I think that this record really feels because also I had someone else there to just help me push it past over that hump and just make the quality where it should be so that people can hear what's actually in my head. It feels really good.
So with this song Sunday that I was talking about earlier when I opened up this conversation, and if you don't mind, I'd love to go deeper into this. The opening notes, I really feel like it's an emotional table setter. And that's exactly what I was talking about when I first heard this in the car. I was like, holy fuck, what is this? And to me, it had a little bit of that great song by the Eurythmics in the early 80s, Who Can Stop the Rain or something like that. Just had it had that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Had this amazing ethereal quality to this song. So with this song Sunday, was it about the melody first? Was it the lyrics?
So this is kind of a long story. How much time do we have? I Okay. So when I was a fetus, when my mom was pregnant with me, she had a dream that her and my dad were in their buggy. She didn't know she's pregnant, but she had a dream that they were driving on this kind of in the galaxy, and they picked up a hitchhiker and her name was Hannah. And when she woke up, she asked my dad, "Oh, what do you think of the name Hannah if we ever had a kid?" And he was like, "Oh, that was my grandmother's name. Great." And then they found out they were pregnant. So I always grew up with this lore that I kind of hitchhiked into their world. And the car was sort of central to that. And then I had a dream. This must have been 10 years after my father passed away, where my mother and I were in the front of the car. My dad and his best friend were in the back seat. And we were driving around and he was holding these photographs and showing them to me and saying, "Oh, this one works, this one doesn't." And he was kind of artistic. It was like dream logic, but it was he was explaining artistic success and when things actually really poke through and people can feel it and when art is not understood. And in the dream, he was kind of showing this one works, this one doesn't. And then at some point he was like, "Well, it's time for me to go back." And then we drove him to the cemetery and we dropped him off and we were all like, "Bye." And so in the dream, it was very much like a visitation, but I felt So when I wrote Sunday, I was sort of writing like that dream was sort of like a lot of the tracks on my album. They're kind of like based in dream logic. Like that's where a lot of my lyrics come from. But that song, the lyrics are kind of pulled from that dream. And I didn't know I was making a record yet. I was in LA and with my friend Adam, I was singing. He'd asked me to sing some vocals on some stuff of his. So I was in the studio with Chris Cody, who's worked on lots of great stuff. And it was this weird LA moment where it was snowing on the mountains and you never really see snow in LA and it just felt very ethereal. There was this just ring of snow. I was reading that book, Mount Analog, while I was down there, and it's all about kind of like reaching for something you know exists but is unreachable. And I don't know, just like it was a very emotional moment. And I fleshed out the lyrics to that song and I laid down the vocals there, actually, not knowing where the song was going to go. But I felt very strongly about the song. Like I was like, maybe this is the best song I've ever written. And later, like so much time went by between when I finished it and when I finished the rest of the record and when anyone heard it, that by the time people finally heard it and like it meant so much to me that KEXP was championing the song and people were hearing it and people were writing me and stuff. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like it actually landed and that feels really good. Cause like sometimes I never know like what my singles are or like what songs are my best songs or whatever, but I feel like people like actually heard it and still hear it.
Well, not only heard it, and I don't want to keep gushing about it because I'm telling everyone it is a fucking beautiful song. It's one of those songs that just sweep you off your feet wherever you are and it elevates. And now that I know more of the backstory to this song, the video too, I want to talk about this video.
Yeah.
So tell us all the little nooks and crannies to that because
Well, that's another layer to like seeing this whole dream logic through. And I just want to say I highly recommend reenacting a dream if you can. Because if you try to reenact a dream, you might learn a lot about yourself.
Yes.
And that's essentially what we did for the video. So my good friend Luciano Talpini-Aita, who played in Cold Beat, he's also an amazing filmmaker. And I asked him to work on the video with me. And I basically was just like, I've been wanting to recreate this dream. So when I had the dream, I storyboarded it when I woke up. And I kept a storyboard in my wallet. I mean, I had the dream so long ago now. I mean, it's like over a decade ago. It's been in my mythology for a while. So my friend Ted, who's an old friend of mine, has a cool car. And I was just like, so this is the dream. It's like I have these photos and I'm in the back of a car. Or I told him the dream. And I was like, how can we reenact this? So we reenacted it. And I was like, I guess I need these photos. So I went to get some photos that I had taken when I was like 15. And I used them in the video. And as I was reenacting them in the car, I realized that the photos were of stoplights and that's what the lyrics were in the song. But I never thought about those exact photos being part of the song, but it was all dream logic that was becoming evident to me while we were making the video. Like it was very trippy. And then later he was like, it'd be kind of cool if you scanned the images and I could use them. And so when I was scanning them, I made a pile and I was going through them and be like, oh, I guess this one would be good. That one wouldn't be good. And I was like, oh my God, I'm reenacting the dream again. And it was just like so trippy. I was learning so much about myself. And actually, the photos that we used in the video were photos I took when I was 15. And that was kind of like my first artistic, like, expression.
Yeah.
So it's all about and I think that's what everyone's trying to do really is like, properly express something that is felt and explain like where they're coming from and what their take is. Cause we're all, we're just born alone, we die alone. But if you can actually empathize with someone and truly understand something about a person, like everyone just kind of wants to be understood, I think, or for who they are, I think. But so the video was really trippy and honestly, it felt very ritualistic because it was. It was like, yeah.
You are the first person that I've interviewed that has suggested to reenact your dreams.
I think it's a really cool, I highly recommend to anyone that has a strong dream that leaves them with a feeling they do or don't understand. Even if you think you understand it, just act it out if you can, even if it seems ridiculous, because that ridiculousness and that nonsense actually is divine, I think. And I don't know, we just, our whole world is like, it's like everything that makes sense, quote unquote, does not make sense. It's like, we do so many things that are like our world, like capitalism, like I'm saying, capitalism, war, like all this stuff. It's like, this is what we think makes sense. Like, it's like, no, no, no. I think like our subconscious has a lot to offer when it comes to like understanding reality.
Yeah. I want to read a couple quick reviews of that people had written. Brooklyn Vegan wrote, pretty minimal wave inspired pop. Raven Sings the Blues says, Hannah balances the line between pop's embrace and the cold edges of her post-punk past. And Gorilla vs. Bear says, a glorious, glimmering synth pop anthem. I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, so now with regards to this self-titled album, I want to read you another quote. This is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says this, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. So in terms of our artistic identity and who you are as a musician, visual artist, a director, how would you I know this is a very big question, but right now, how would you define your identity?
You know, I don't think it's possible to define an identity. I think that life is long and you get a lot of chances to be, express different parts of who you are. I think especially being a woman,
Mm.
there's a lot of assumptions about what, how I'm gonna go through the world or what expectations. And I think, success is really relative to everyone. So like what success means to one person is different for another. But yeah, I think it's just possible to be a, a lot of it's possible to do a lot of different things and not hold yourself to anything. The beginner's mind,
Yes, I
important.
do know. Okay, so let's talk about, if you don't mind, being a woman in relation to this work, these songs. Do you feel that sense of gender when it came to creating these songs at all?
I mean, I think that there's such a spectrum of gender and what what that means or what confines there are. I think that yeah, I don't know. I think also like being a mom, like I've had a couple of younger women in the scene that I think it's probably just a pet peeve of mine, but they'll write me and just be like, it's so amazing that you're like a mom and you're doing this and like writing music. And it's like, I just want to be like, you know what? there's a lot of different versions of femininity. Like there's a lot of different ways for women to be in the world. Like being a mom does not mean one thing. Like you can be a mom and write music. Like it's not like, I don't know. I guess being a mom is a title, but it's not, you're still you. And for people like me that have to write music for their emotional survival or for some deal they made with the devil where I feel like I'll lose my mind if I don't see things through, it's like, of course I'm going to keep writing music or I'll be a psycho parent. I have to like do this. But I just don't really limit myself when it comes to like what I think is what I'm supposed to do or what's like normal. I think you just have to do what feels right for you.
So who taught you that?
Nobody. I think,
Nobody. So you didn't have a mom or a dad that kind of paved the way in terms of them just being themselves,
I mean,
stepping out of their comfort zone, not fitting in the perfect box here.
I think I've always like when I was young, I really was kind of, I guess I was sort of rebellious or something, but I think I've always just looked for my own logic. I've always trusted my own instincts. And since I was kind of a kid, I just the way my family was set up, I had to kind of make my own decisions in that way. And I don't know, I think that I've just always been also like my best friend when I was young. We were both just like making our own rules for like we were keeping each other safe and in this crazy world. And I think I did a lot of like adventuring when I was young, and I've always just been okay with like deciding like no one had no I've never been given license to like do things. And I think that's why like the DIY community, you know, doing things that way was the way I came into music because it was like we don't have to wait for someone to like give us a seal of approval. We can just like do things. Like we can book tours and, we don't need people to like provide that for us.
You mentioned how dreams have informed you in a way that you've gone deeper into yourself. How has motherhood informed you, just as a person or a musician? Anything you want to share there?
I think that, I've always had multitudes, like I've always not been one thing. And I feel like I think thinking about the world in a more future, like kind of what the future is going to be like more, because I think about my child being in the future definitely informs just my sense of time and everything. But also, there's just like so much more love in my life, like unconditional love, that it's really made other relationships or other things that don't matter just like really not matter. And I think it's made me a better artist because I don't really have time. Like when people are late, or I guess it's another pet peeve of mine, but when people tell me they're really busy, I'm just like, I am really busy. But I don't ever talk about, I think I'm a little like, I don't usually lead with that I'm a mom because I feel like people have so many ideas about what that means. And I just like don't want to deal with it. But people project a lot on parenthood and they have their own feelings about it. So, and I have friends that are antinatalists and they're still good friends of mine. And it's like, I get it. But yeah, I never was a person that was like, I need to have kids. I just like kind of realized it was the right thing for me and then like kind of quickly got pregnant and then had a kid. And then it was freaking pandemic and I had a 1-year old. So I just like, I feel like my type of parenthood, like I never thought I was so hell bent on like, I'm not going to stop playing shows. And like, I had put a record out that came out on DFA a week before lockdown, but I was
Mhm.
fully ready to like go and like do all this amazing touring. And I was like, I'm not going to stop doing what I do. And then it was like lockdown. So it was like, joke was on me because I didn't really get to choose. But so I have no idea what it would have been like had that not happened at the time that I became a parent. But it kind of changed things. But yeah, I think it's not for everyone, but it's a high level of responsibility. And it's just like another, maybe I'm addicted to responsibility a little bit. Like I have a record store that I run with my husband that's been open for like 10 years. And So we have that, and then we have a child, and there's, yeah, a lot of responsibility, but it keeps me on my toes. And when I do have time and when I am writing, I'm like fully there.
Okay.
And he knows my son will sit, my band are so patient. He'll just come crash our practices a lot. But he'll sit like with his little headphones, literally like underneath my drummer, like, and he'll just be sitting there, like, and he's around music a lot. And yeah, it's a cool thing to share.
There's a song in here I'd love to learn more about. It's the last song called The Clock. Another beauty, Hannah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Tell us more about this one.
It's weird because, like, I mentioned, like, I use a lot of dream logic and like Sunday I dove into and I tried to understand what the song was about. The clock, I don't fully understand. I would need to recreate that dream to understand it better, but that was one of the first songs I wrote for this album, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just played it for a while. I wrote it on organ, which I don't usually write on. It just felt like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like a feeling like I kind of talked about earlier that I had to see through. I'm not really sure. Like, it's kind of just like, I'm remembering now, like, when you look at a digital clock, you're looking at an icon of the time. You're looking at the numbers. But when you look at an analog clock, you're looking at all the times that it isn't. And that's how we actually think about time. We don't just think about the time it is right now. We think about time in regards to this 24, hour, like, we're thinking about what happened 15 minutes ago and what's happening in 15 minutes and
Yes.
all of the, it's like kind of a different way of perceiving time. I just thought, I don't know, it just kind of resonated with me in thinking about time. And so I guess,
Yeah.
it just got me thinking about like John Cage and the Long Now Foundation and that clock that's in the mountain. And I think mountains are a theme on the record somehow. Like there's mountains, Mount Analog, like, for that Dumas book on Sunday. And then the John Cage clock is like an image for me with the clock.
How do you go about putting the songs together in a way that it flows? There's cohesion to this album. How do you do that?
For every good song I included on the record, I have like 3 songs that I didn't include on the record. So there's a lot of sorting. Like I write a lot of music and not all of it makes the cut. Like I have like a lot of unreleased material. And I think I just like found kind of found a common thread between the things that did make the cut. And I was like, okay, these things all exist in this world, whatever, like as the world started kind of snowballing of what the record was. And that's how those things got included on the record. They just fell into that universe that was this record. But it was really hard to like grab onto what the identity was of it initially because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just making stuff and I wasn't sure if I was going to do my own album or if it was a cold beat album or, I didn't know what I was doing. So it took a while. It took a while to like be like, oh, I see what this is.
Uh,
This is a record I'm going to release under my own name. Like, there's like when that kind of became evident, it was kind of like, what does that mean? And then, yeah, I don't know. Just it took a while for the identity of the record to kind of assert itself, but once it did, it became clear like which songs were meant for it.
Is there a track on here that means the most to you?
Probably Sunday, um, for reasons I've discussed. And it's like I feel so earnest about it. It's almost embarrassing. Like I would like even when it came out, I the day that it came out, I was like downplaying it for myself because I was like, "Oh god, I care too much about this song." But yeah, it's probably I mean, they're all my babies. They're all important to me in different ways, and they're all crucial to the record. But yeah, that one probably is the most, like, important to me.
Talk to us about the artwork for the album cover.
Well, it was a really weird process. I actually made a plaster cast of my face, and then I broke it,
Yeah.
and I thought that would be the album cover, but it was a moment when, like, when the plaster cast broke, it looked kind of grotesque, like horror movie style, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta recreate this." So I then it went through so much generation loss, like the concept, but basically my friend Mimi Fowler shot a video with me that actually has never been finished, and hopefully we'll finish it someday. But we took a video still, and then I like chopped it up and I recreated the plaster cast breaking. I just knew I had to break a statue. And I think the poetry of like a broken statue is sort of like impermanence and also just like yeah, just like time, impermanence. I also did this cool I just did make a music video for someone that I won't speak of right now because it's coming out next month, I think. But I hadn't made any video work in a while. And this woman, really interesting woman, Tamara Nice, asked me to make this little clip for for her book that she wrote about digital footprint. It's called The Death Glitch. And it's like kind of about how like once there's stuff about you online, it kind of never goes away. And there's always like, data centers, like using all these fossil fuels to keep information just out there. Whereas like I'm summarizing her book in a really shitty way. She's incredible, and she's so smart. But I'm like trying to explain that she talked a bit about like how there used to be statues of people and like if they got canceled in society, they would break the statue, and like that was a way. And now it's like there's just so many, I don't know, just versions of us out there. It's really crazy. But I think I needed to I needed to break the statue. I don't really know how to explain it. It's also in some kind of dream logic that I can only speak to what I know about my music. I'm sure other people will divine things that I don't understand about my music. I mean, if I did a good job, they will.
Is there anything else you want to share about this album that we haven't discussed?
I don't know. I feel like you had really good questions. I mean, yeah, I'm just really proud of it. I'm excited for it to be out of my hands.
And how can people find this album when it's released?
Well, I've heard that so it's on Bandcamp, which is, a great place to support artists. And it's on all the streaming stuff. And then the actual record, there's limited copies left of, and they have it at Revolver USA. So that's like midheaven.com. And then yeah, people can ask their local record stores to order it. It's also it's out on Night School Records in the UK. So I guess if you're in the UK, you might have an easier time getting your hands on it too.
I want to know a little bit more because I've never seen you live. Tell us, how do you actually go about preparing for a live performance?
My band is amazing. I'm so lucky. Like the people, like when like I said, like I mean, I put the band together before I finished the record,
Yeah.
and I was kind of exploring like, okay, how do these songs get played live? Because I recorded all the parts in my computer, and then my husband Andrew plays all the guitar on the tracks. I was just like, I don't know how to perform this live. Like, what's going to sound good live? And sometimes you don't know how things are going to land until you play them in front of other people. So it's just, there's just some people like my friend Peter's playing guitar. I've known him since I was 18. And then this guy, Brian Tester, is playing the synthesizers and he's like a total whiz. He works at sequential circuits. He's just like really cool and really smart and really talented. And then this guy, Nick Clark, is playing drums and he's just like really great. And everyone is just really, I don't know, just when I got the band together, it was like people just really, they just like played the material correctly and really brought things to it too. So when we play live, there's some things that are different than the record. Like, for example, siloed,
Mhm.
it sounds pretty incredible live, mostly because of the stuff that these guys are doing that are not on the recording. It sounds different. And I think that's cool because just like, the broken statue, like the record is a document and it was important to me to create a document that was accurate to what I was trying to express. But like the songs have taken shape since playing them live. And then when we play live, there's that, when we practice, it's like we practice once a week and it's awesome. But when you play live, there's sort of this like loop that happens with people in the audience that, just last night I was like feeling it. I was like, yeah, it feels so good to have that loop going on, that kind of like recognition loop. It just is like good for your brain. I think it's really good for your brain to both perform and witness live music in real time and just be in a room of people that are all like in agreement and in the same vibe. It's like it feels really good. And like, yeah, bottom of the hill is like, you know, a packed room at bottom of the hill is better than a huge venue that like, you know, has some kind of pretense. Like, I don't know. But yeah, and then my friend Sarah Cagnon, who has her own band, Hectorine, singing backups with me. And I just feel really like backed up by her too. Like
Well, that must be beautiful.
yeah, she has an amazing voice. She makes me want to sing better. And I just feel like really, because everyone in the band is so solid, I just feel really like I can deliver
Yeah.
the material. And yeah, I'm really lucky. Good people.
In terms of your vocal style, are there musicians out there whilst growing up, while you were getting into music, that you felt vocalist is really unlocking some doors for me in terms of inspiration?
I did record a Eurythmics covers EP, and I love Annie Lennox's vocals, specifically the stuff like In the Garden, like that record. Kind of the stuff before it was like diva singing, but it was more like, I don't know, when she was singing a little more straight, like that's my favorite. A lot of vocalists I like are male vocalists. Like, my favorite bands are like everyone's favorite bands, like Jesus and Mary Chain, Depeche Mode, like New Order. It's like, those are all my, you know, but, and there's something about the straight delivery that I love. Like, singing is like tricky. Like, people are often like, oh, your singing voice sounds different than your speaking voice. And it's true because it comes from a different place. It's like different part of my body, different part of my spirit. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of who else I listen to a lot.
Were you into like the Sundays or Cocteau Twins?
No. I
Kinda
think okay, hot take. I've never really listened. I mean, I do love God, what's that song? I have a 12-inch. I only have one Cocteau Twins record that I love. It's a 12-inch, but it's like 16. Oh God, what is that? 16 Ways or something? I think that song's awesome. And it's co-produced by someone else cool too. Sorry, I'm like without facts right now because of my depravity. But Cocteau Twins, like I can't get past the lyrics. People are always surprised to know that I'm not a huge Cocteau Twins fan. It's like, and even like Heaven or Las Vegas got referenced a lot on one of my cold beat records. People were like, "Oh, it's so Heaven or Las Vegas," and I was just like, "But I have lyrics."
right.
You know who I loved when I was young was Delight. I loved Delight when I was like a young person. Icon. And like of course Madonna. When I was a kid, my mom had like a Madonna tape in the car. She made the Immaculate Collection was scented with patchouli. The cassette, all of the whole pressing was scented. And it's still nostalgic. Like if you're in a thrift store and you find that tape, you should snip it because it's very nostalgic. Yeah, I think I liked, like, all the stuff little girls like Belinda Carlisle and Madonna and,
Yeah.
you know, Sade. Yeah, a lot of my, like, icons, like, for bass, like, I love, like, kind of peace punk, like, like, Rudimentary, Peni, Crass, stuff like that, Zounds, like, that's kinda, like that music really resonated with me in terms of, like, bass lines. I think Rudimentary, Peni, Death Church is, like, my biggest, like actually, I had, like when I was writing this album, I was, like, in a place where I was like, "I don't even wanna write music, I'm just gonna learn all the bass lines to Death Church." And I just, like that's what I did. I spent, like, a season being like, "Should I do a one-person Rudimentary Peni cover band for Halloween?"
Your creativity never stops. That valve is always open, yeah?
Well, I'm kind of resting on my laurels at the moment, but I think I think all artists struggle with this, and I was actually just talking to a friend about it last night, but sometimes you're just on an intake time, and sometimes you're in an output time, and you kinda have to know when you're in input or output mode and not put pressure on yourself if sometimes I'm in a big output mode, and it's just like a faucet, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, like, I gotta record this," and I feel the pressure,
Yeah.
and I feel the responsibility to record the output. I think I'm in a big input time right now, and that's, like, something I've come to recognize about my own seasons as a person that makes stuff. I'm not, like, always making stuff. And actually, I've been ignoring songs that have come in my head recently
But
and not getting
the
fresh.
idea and understanding that you might go back to them?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
if they come back to me, but I doubt they will because that's how songs usually, like, you have to catch it, and if you don't, it's over.
Let's have a little bit of fun, yeah? I'm gonna ask you some questions here.
Okay.
Whatever comes to the top of your head,
Okay.
push it out. Here we go. What does Hannah like to do outside of music?
Pottery. I have a very quiet pottery practice. I hang out with, like, elderly people, and I make pottery, and I'm really bad at it, and I would love to do it. Also gardening, chill person stuff. But that's, like yeah, that's what I do when I'm not being, like, a weirdo and making stuff that didn't exist before. And I put much less pressure on myself being good at those things. And I also make video art. I have, like, just made a music video for someone, and I'd like to make video video
Do you prefer coffee or tea?
coffee.
The last good or great book that you read?
I mean, I read that Miranda July book,
Yeah.
and I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Things, that are of great bother to you.
The word influencer,
Mm.
really annoying.
You had mentioned Bottom of the Hill several times in this conversation. Tell the listeners and me other places that you enjoy either playing at or just going to see a show.
I mean, Great American Music Hall is just, like, a beautiful building. One time I played a show there, and my grandmother came to the show, and she was, like, sitting in the balcony, and she was, like, 90 something years old. So I have really fond memories of playing there, and I feel like people there have a lot of pride in the building and its history, and it's just a really beautiful building. And then I played at Grace Cathedral, and that was, like, incredible, and actually, that was the last Cold Beat show. And I think it just, like I didn't realize it was when we played, but then afterwards, I was like, "I don't think we can ever play a show again." Like, that was it. Like, that was so epic.
Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, yeah? Yeah.
And it was like yeah, we were the only band that played, and I put a choir together, and it was, like, a truly amazing show. Yeah, I just was like, "Well, that's it. Time for something else." Like, we got some show offers after, and I was like, "I don't think I can play anywhere else now. I think I just did it."
Nice.
I used to love, like, playing at, like, all the Brooklyn DIY venues during that heyday,
Yeah.
and that was, like, a good time in shows. Yeah, I'll miss all the, like, medium-sized rooms in San Francisco. I think it's, like it kind of feels like the end of an era a little bit, but I don't know, we'll see what happens next.
Sure.
It always feels like the end, right? But it's not. Time just keeps going.
Robert Smith engages with you in a conversation about some records. What do you recommend to him?
Oh my gosh. Me recommending records to Robert Smith. Clan of Zymox.
Last question. Are you morning or night creative person?
Morning. When it's nighttime, I'm not in a good place. I'm like waking up in the middle of the night, like, oh, I got to record this now or it'll be gone.
Yeah.
But I'm usually morning. Yeah.
Hannah, thank you for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
You're welcome.
For reaching out. It's really fun.
What's coming down the line for you?
My record coming out soon. So yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm not sure when this podcast is airing, but yeah, I'm sure I guess the record will probably be out by then.
Well, this has been a really ear-opening conversation. Check out Hannah's work. I'm telling you right now, as I said it earlier, this amazing self-titled album, top, bottom, shelf, all great, all good stuff. 9 glorious songs packaged in a way that sweeps you off your feet. It's got emotional punch, has a little bit of some ease vibe to it. Sounds very current, it's fresh. So yeah, get it while you can. My name is Hugh, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast, and I would like everyone to remember this: great music is all around us. Ciao.